Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. This is the regular session of Mason City Schools Board of Education. The board has been conducting a work session and executive session that we have exited, and so we are ready for the next item on our agenda, which is item number 4, where we are opening the regular session. And then if you'll all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, we also have some meeting minutes to approve. Is that correct, Sean, or
Correct.
have we approved
Yep,
these?
August and September.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All right. Any discussion? All right, Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mrs. Yangling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
5-0.
All right. Next item on our agenda is our superintendent's presentation.
Yes, thank you. We have 3 presentations tonight that we're really excited about. The first is our wayfinding. Every month, if you're not familiar with this or you're tuning in or with us tonight in our Harvard room, we have wayfinding moments, and it's basically a zoom in on a Mason moment that connects to our foundational big rocks. And it's a way for us to have that small school feel with the big school opportunities. And so Tracy Carson, our public information officer, has done a fabulous job of finding those stories and sharing them with us. So go ahead, Tracy.
Well, I'm really excited to share this month's wayfinding moment when we think about large schools with big opportunities, but how you make those feel small. We have a special organization within our schools, the Comet Skippers, and it's probably the only organization district-wide where you can start out as a first grader skipping with colleagues as 4th graders, as 8th graders, and then still continue to be mentored along the way as high school. It's a wonderful school, and when you watch them in the parades, you see the stamina, the teamwork they have. So we wanted to just showcase that as kind of one of our unique opportunities that really is a wayfinder for kids who are part of Comet Skippers. But you'll want to watch the end and see how they are really also have been a wayfinder and really embodying our Inclusive Excellence Rock and what they have done with Mason Elementary this year and their assembly. So stay tuned.
I joined Comet Skippers when I was in 4th grade. I was 10, and like since then, all my closest friends I've met in jump rope, and like I sit with them at like lunch. And it's just how I feel my community is just through jump rope and our shared passion for it. And I travel like all throughout the country with them. I'm always like bonding with them. They're just my community, and I don't know where I would be without jump rope. When you start out, you don't know you don't know what you're getting into basically, and you're just having fun. You're just like meeting new people when you're that young. You're just having fun. But as you grow up, you start realizing like, oh, this is big.
The whole time I've been at Mason, the Comet Skippers have come and they've done a wonderful performance for everyone in the school. It is exciting, it is loud, there's music, they're doing wonderful tricks. You can tell they're really, really great kids. And I wanted an opportunity for a more accessible environment for our students with sensory needs in our specialized classrooms. So I reached out. Nicole Rogers, who is one of the leaders for Comet Skippers, she was so receptive and so willing to do whatever we needed. So she just was asking the right questions, and this idea came to fruition, and it was just truly amazing. So she was a huge help for us. But the best part of the whole thing was when they invited all of our kids to come up and jump with them. They were so incredibly patient. Sometimes as a teacher, I want to explain the student a lot, but they just took over and gave them lots of opportunities. They were laughing. They didn't skip a beat, no pun intended, about including these kids. And sometimes inclusion is all together, and sometimes different kids get what they need in order to succeed. So that's kind of what we were going for.
It's definitely a fun experience to because I'm one of the leaders
Thank you, Tracy and team, for bringing that story to us. So this debuts here with our board first and then goes out on social media. So you can find that out there on social media. Please share that with others. It's a great example of how comic culture continues to spread through everywhere. And I know there's a lot of coaches and adults that makes Comet Skippers possible. Comet Skippers, if you've not seen them before, highly recommend catching one of their shows. It is extremely impressive and very difficult, but they do a great job. So thank you, Tracy. Our next part of our presentation tonight, last year, the board started something called the Mason Medallion Program. And what we do with the Mason Medallion Program is it's another way for us to recognize and celebrate the great work that's happening throughout our district. We like to tie our celebrations into our values. And so every week we have something called 5 on Friday, where staff members recognize staff members for the great work that's happening in our buildings. And then we have a fun email at the end of the week just to end the week on a positive note. We're recognizing staff members. Then throughout the quarter, we choose one of our staff members and one of those compelling stories to be recognized with the Mason Medallion on behalf of our Board of Education. And this quarter is going to Kay Pfeiffer. Kay Pfeiffer is one of our middle school OTs, and she is just exudes everything that comic culture is all about. She is a teacher that goes above and beyond, and she goes to events to see our kids and cheers them on. I saw her at one of our evenings where we have the whole community out for our football game called our tailgating event, and she brought some of our students with special needs there to support them so they could have that experience. I have a son with special needs. She's reached out as well to continue to extend opportunities to him and to others in his group as well. So, Kay Pfeiffer, congratulations. Thank you for being a wonderful model of comic culture. So, congratulations. And if you see Kay out there, please pass on our congratulations. Our final superintendent presentation today is, it's really exciting. We have debated whether or not to get a seat permanently here in the boardroom for Coach Reed and his team because they come so often. This is just a regular occurrence, and I love that. When I go around the state and people are celebrating their very first state championship, it's wonderful. It's exciting. But, you know, when you start to get to the point where you're talking about Michael Jordan has 6 rings, and there's a football player that played for New England. What's that guy's name again? I think you know that guy. Tom Brady, 7 rings, I think it is. And I would like to invite another person that shares that same level of platform, and it has the good fortune of coaching our girls tennis team. Coach Reed and the other coaches, if you would like to join us today for 7 straight state championships in a row. Thank you so much. Come on down. We cannot wait to hear the story, and we have a new something to give you tonight. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm Mike Reed, and I've been coaching the Mason girls team for about 14, 15 years or so. And thank you for the very kind words. I appreciate it. And also, thank you for recognizing these kids. How many of you guys have been here before? A few. But anyway, also I'd like to introduce my co-coach, Leighton Jones, who's a longtime tennis friend of mine. Last year, as you know, I retired, and I was talking
How's that
to the
going?
athletic director about 10 weeks into my retirement, and he wondered if I was sure I wanted to stay retired. And you know, I really like coaching, but I just couldn't commit to the time to be there constantly during the season. And I asked Leighton Jones if he would be interested in co-coaching and taking over. In a moment of weakness, he said yes. We stamped that right there.
Thank you.
And it worked out pretty well this season. So thanks, Leighton, for helping us out. Really appreciate it. I'd like to talk just a little bit about the accomplishments of the team. Obviously, we won a 7th straight OTCA state championship, which is really hard to do because you need a lot of things. And one of them is luck. You know, everything has to fall in place. And we didn't have any injuries. Nobody was sick the day before, and we had a bunch of great kids. And they all played their positions, and that worked out really well. Also, we had a pair of kids that won the state doubles championship. Would you guys stand up? Congratulations. Wagner, Patricia Taderi, and they just played incredible tennis. And it was one of the best matches I've ever been a part of, and something I learned about coaching. That match is, there's a time just to shut up and let them play. So I've never seen kids play that well, and I didn't want to say anything to mess that up except some encouragement, because they played incredible tennis, and we have a freshman and a sophomore winning that state championship.
Wow.
Congratulations,
Wow.
girls. And the other thing I think you need, to win a state championship is everybody's got to be on the same page. It's got to be a really cohesive organization. And I had two kids, my senior co-captains, that really did a great job in instilling the culture of our program into the rest of these kids. I've got one of the most amazing parts of the team is that our state championship, the kids that were on the floor, on the court rather, we had 4 freshmen and 3 sophomores. And at the beginning of the season, they weren't really sure what our program was all about. And Swathi Reddy and Anisha Nandra, our co-captains, really did a lot to instill the values of our team. And one of the values that we have, winning is nice, but that's a byproduct of, hard work and dedication. But it's also a byproduct of fun. I think that's one of the things we do a lot is we try to have fun in the course of doing everything else. And nobody's better at addressing fun and teaching the kids how to do that while you're working hard to accomplish a goal than Swathi and Anisha. And I'd like them to come up and introduce the rest of the players. And players, if you would stand up as Swathi says some kind words about you, or Anisha. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Swathi and I'm a senior and I'm a co-captain.
And I'm Anisha Nandra. I'm a senior and I'm also a co-captain.
So we just want to tell you all a little bit about our teammates, but we're going to start off with what we call the bench gang. But before, I want to explain what it means to be on the bench gang. Everyone obviously wants to be on our team and play every match, but we have a lot of talent and not as many spots. That leaves the bench gang to cheer on every one of us, losing their voices and getting complaints from parents, coaches, and other players. It's not easy not being able to play, but it's a great strength to stand on the sidelines and support your team until the end. It's evident that we have one of the best bench gangs in the state, and it's arguable that that's why we have won 7 titles straight. So let's begin with Harshita Ganga. Ganga is a junior who is an asset to our team with her academic abilities. She has taken almost every course that is known to Mason and has scored a 36 on her ACT.
Another one of our bench gang members is sophomore Niyati Katuria. Niyati never fails to make us laugh and encourages positivity. She is selfless and is always hardworking.
Next is Sonal Marla. Sonal is a junior who has some interesting volleys but very strong overheads. She is a great supporter and always cheers on the team.
Next, we have Chloe Zhang. Chloe's a freshman who has a big personality and brings a lot of energy to our team. She played second doubles throughout the season, and she fought hard during the individual tournament and also won us the second doubles in the team state match.
Pratusha Chaudhary is a sophomore on the team who has won Mason's first doubles state title. She played singles throughout the season and then went on to win a state championship in doubles. Her talent just pushes everyone to be better.
Next is sophomore Anna Gotique. Anna is an amazing team member as she's motivated, ambitious, and kind. Anna was a huge asset to her team this year as she played doubles throughout the season. She also played first doubles at her state finals match, and not to mention, she also achieved a perfect score on her AP Computer Science Principles exam.
Now we have Emma Wagner. Emma is just a freshman who has a double state championship under her name. Emma and Pertusha were just an unstoppable duo. Emma shows up every day to work hard, throw balls all the way across fences, and it was so fun to have her on the team.
Next, we have sophomore Addison Cassidy. Addison joined Mason this year and fits right in with the team. She's a role model to the team and reflected a positive behavior to the rest of the team. Addison's always ready to work hard in practice and get better each day. Addison had an amazing individual state round as she got to states and lost in quarterfinals. In the state team tournament, Addison had a tough morning before our final match playing the individual state champion, but she pulled through and fought hard to clinch our match to get us our championship.
Next, we have Sanvi Reddy. Sanvi is a freshman who is dedicated to getting better. Sometimes she can be a little sassy, but she's so thoughtful about everyone. Sanvi qualified for state in doubles this year after a very successful regular season.
And next, we have freshman Ayumi Kashwakura. Cash has a great personality, but brought so much energy to the team. Cash was one of the ones who didn't raise her voice, and when on the bench gang, you could barely hear her. Cash played second doubles throughout season. However, during the state team match, Coach Reed put Cash in at third singles. Third singles is a big deal as it can be very nerve-wracking with lots of pressure, especially in a state team match. Cash, however, took this challenge with ease and stepped up and clinched our first state team win against the #1 team in Ohio. And not only after that big win, Cash later that day was placed at third singles again for our final state team match. And with no doubt, Cash won the third singles court in straight sets. She's our secret weapon as she owned the court and was a major influence in our state win this year as only a freshman.
Okay, so to give you a little rundown about the day that we won our 7th consecutive title, we started off playing our biggest competition, which was North Canton Hoover, and we played outside at the College of Worcester. All the girls that were playing had a lot of fun out there and played pretty hard. Anna lost a shoe but kept playing while she was on the ground. We won that match before it started raining, and we headed indoor to play Upper Arlington. The bench gang was actually allowed to sit on one of the courts, so our voices were just echoing through the whole club. Ayumi pulled through the first win very quickly, and then it was followed by second doubles, and then finally Addison won the final match to win us our 7th title. And then also for Emma and Pertusha, they played 2 seniors for their state final, like their doubles match, and they won in straight sets. They only lost 1 game. So. Thank you to every one of these girls and our coaches for an amazing season and hopefully many more to come. And thank you, Mason, for giving us the resources for our program and recognizing us tonight.
Well, congratulations, girls. Congratulations, coaches, and congratulations, parents. We don't ever get tired of acknowledging the state championship teams. And that goes doubly for you all who have been here year after year. I think you've been at more board meetings than I have, I think, actually, now that I come to think of it. But I loved, hearing you guys talk about the bench gang in particular, and hearing you talk about the, as I'm looking at the roster and all of these, years that, so many young underclassmen contributing in such a big way, thinking about, the being a part of a team and a program like Mason Tennis. There's, somebody wins a state title every year, and there's tons of schools that have, 1 or 2 to their name or something like that. But you really are a part of something very special in Mason Tennis when you talk about, 7 in a row, and you think about all the names that have come before you and some of the names that are coming up behind you. And I look to you upperclassmen in particular and empathize with you, because I had the privilege of being a part of a very historic and good high school sports program myself, and getting to that junior and senior year and, thinking this might be the time, and you have freshmen and sophomores coming up behind you, and your role as leaders on the team and in leading as that bench gang, or in maybe the 2 or the 3 or the 4 spot, wherever it is you're contributing to the team, that is just as impactful. And in fact, you know, it just goes unspoken how much of a ripple effect you have. You know, when Mason shows up on the schedule and when teams have to come play you, that's in the back of the other team's mind, and they feel that when the serves are coming and they have to return it over the net. And that's something that, as I'm looking at this roster and seeing those of you, you know, we heard the freshman and sophomore names that are you know, state champions and having that impact on the team. Soon enough, you're going to be in that spot as well, and you're a junior and senior, and you're going to have freshmen and sophomores behind you who are pushing you to be even better for yourselves. So congratulations. I love to hear about the just the holistic, the team effort. Anywhere else you would probably be playing number one. You know, we would have a intramural tournament that could be just as competitive as the OTCA tournament. And it takes a lot for you to sacrifice to come and be a part of this program. But we appreciate it, and we know that you are all part of something special. So congratulations. Yeah, I think, are we ready to bring up, we have a special gift for each of you. Yeah.
Yeah, if you would come on up and come on down here. We have a gift, and we're going to go ahead and get a picture with you if we could. That'd be great. Thank you. Congratulations, girls. Yeah, that's great. Get your gift here, shake hands, and then we'll get a picture with all of you together. Start at that. When you win 7 times in a row, it's hard to
You don't have your own car yet, but you might be able to hand it to your
Oh, we didn't talk about the skippers.
Oh, no, she was a skipper.
Skipper ball.
Swinging out there until
Okay.
everybody gets through.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I've never seen you on the tennis court playing them at a game. I think you might be afraid to.
All right.
Can I make a
So,
noise?
girls,
You
I
can tune
have a few of you kind of lean, and then so we can see
Oh,
or
that's
go
neat.
down on the, yeah, that's sweet, that would be great.
Good idea.
We could do another group, yeah. And then behind, and then my board members, speak up behind these girls. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yes, coaches. This looks great.
I'm usually in the back.
This looks really nice. Connie and Desiree, I'm gonna have you pop out to these ends. Pop out to these ends over here.
You want me on the other side?
You know what, if you just come all the way over and kind of scooch. There you go, there you go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Love it.
Stay there for a second so parents can
Let
get their
some moms and
pictures.
dads get
There you
some.
go. Parents, come on, make your pictures.
Well done. Well done, ladies.
Thank you.
We had to get creative to come up with
We really appreciate you. Thank you very much. I know we're getting ready to transition, and I know we'll do some a break and dismissals and different things. But I just want to reiterate, girls, we are so proud of you, and it not just for winning the state for 7 times. It is fun to say you've won 7 times in a row, but we are just so proud of the people that you are. Proud that you represent us well, and I love when the coach said you have fun. When you have fun together and you talk about culture, those are the things you'll remember the most. 7 times is great, but you'll remember those. And I really think, and I want to give a lot of credit to your coaches as well. You think of those people I mentioned earlier, the Michael Jordans and the other guy from, I can't, Brady, that's right, that guy. They all had coaches as well that allowed them to continue to excel. So it is really a team effort with coaches, with athletes, and with your parents. So thank you so much for representing us well. We're just so proud of you. So thank you, girls.
Just on the topic of parents, I think Coach would say that a tennis program can't thrive without parents who have made commitments all the way back to probably age 4 to be able to play it at this kind of level. And so we're glad you're here and congratulate you. I know it's fun to be a part of this, and we're proud of your girls, and we thank you certainly for everything you do to make it possible for this team to excel at such a high level.
All right, well, thank you again. And at this time in our meeting, we actually take a pause. So we recognize that a lot of you are here for our superintendent's presentation, but you probably have some homework or some tennis practice to get to. And we don't want to keep you from that. So we'll take a pause and let you move on with your evening. Or if you'd like to stay for the remainder, you're more than welcome to.
Have a great night. Thank you. Thank you. Let me just give a quick introduction. You're coming up to do this. Let me do that.
No, it's all right. I mean, if you want.
I'll do some music.
Eye of the Tiger, maybe?
Eye
Eye of the Tiger.
of the Tiger. Walk-up music. That'd be the first time in. All right, if we could transition, we have one final presentation. It is the treasurer's presentation. And I don't know that we've ever had walk-up music for the treasurer's 5-year, but it could be the first time in history. I don't know what song he would want, but
Alan Parsons Project, for sure. Yeah. The Bulls.
You know,
that's
thank
right.
you.
Sean, take it away. This is an important part of our evening, so we'll give it to you.
When I came in tonight and saw the crowd, I thought maybe they had come out for the the 4th leg of the superintendent presentation, but not at all disappointed, still just as excited to be here. So,
Getting their popcorn.
thank you. We do have the opportunity tonight to look at our 5-year forecast. As most of us know, but if anybody who doesn't know, who might be out there watching, the 5-year forecast is a planning tool that we use as a district. We use it all throughout the year. It's not just something we look at one time per year. It's something that we use on a regular basis to help us make decisions and guide our long-term planning and strategic thinking. The reason that we have it on the agenda tonight is that there are a couple times throughout the year where we are required to formally approve this forecast and submit it to the state, and November is one of those times. So the 5-year forecast is part of something we call our foundational rock, our fiscal stewardship rock. So we talk a lot about our 3 big rocks, we call them, are culture, inclusive excellence, and personalized learning. However, there is a 4th rock that we refer to as our foundational rock, and that is fiscal stewardship. And so the forecast is one piece of that. There are lots of pieces within fiscal stewardship, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about those tonight. But the forecast is one measure there. One of the things that we like to, I guess one of our goals fiscally or financially is to provide a great return on investment for our community. So we want to provide opportunities and resources for kids and families and make sure that they're having a great educational experience. And we want to do that our goal is to do that at a cost that's below state average. And so we believe that obviously it's very important to provide that great experience for kids and families, but from our community standpoint, providing that at a low cost, it provides great value for our community. So we'll talk about some things tonight about return on investment, and we call this, some of these things are Mason quality ROI. So the first graphic we have here tonight is actually a snapshot of a few different districts that are in Southwest Ohio and are part of, highly rated as part of the niche ranking. So the niche ranking is something that we look at on a regular basis to kind of see how we as a district are stacking up statewide and nationally. The reason we use niche rankings is that in addition to looking at academic data, these rankings also look at other factors, so diversity and type of extracurricular activities and quality of programs and quality of staff and things like that. And so, again, it's beyond just the academic measures, and so we do like this ranking, and so this is something we do look at. In the 2024 rankings, Mason was ranked number 4. I do understand it's a little bit hard to read, but if you're at home and you want to zoom in on that, you're welcome to, and we'll go into a little bit more detail on some of these categories. But again, niche ranking, Mason number 4 for 2024, and we'll go into some of the other things on there. One of the pieces on that graphic is there's some data that we get from the Ohio Department of Education. So ODE, well, I guess that would be the Department of Education and Workforce, has now replaced ODE, but that department collects data from schools all around the state, and then they compile that data and put it in different categories, and then you're able to compare how you stack up to other districts. And so one of the measures that we like to look at is the average cost per student or expenditure per pupil. And so, again, going back to what we were mentioning a minute ago, one of our goals is to provide a high-quality educational experience at a cost that is below the state average. And so this graphic kind of shows that we are below the state average. So again, Mason, we were number 4 in that graph. Some of the reason that we had different numbers of districts we were on there, we're trying to catch a reflection of Southwest Ohio. But again, being number 4 overall, we are still showing our average cost per student well below the state average and below some of these other key districts in the area. So we believe this is one measure of providing value for our community. The second thing we want to pull out from that group is there are different categories of expenses on those state report, or on the CUP report, we call it. There's administrative costs and pupil support costs and building operations costs and instructional costs. And so one of the things that we hope to do is to spend less on administration and spend more on instructional, put more towards the classroom. And so this is something that we are proud of, to say that in terms of return on investment from what our community is investing, we are spending lower on administrative costs, which is again is a goal of ours. However, on the flip side, one of the things that is important to us is being able to attract and retain high quality staff. So all across the board, whether it's teachers, administrators, support staff. And so this graphic will show in that same category of districts, our average administrator salary is on the higher end. And so we have a low percentage of costs we're spending on administration, but we're still offering a salary that puts us in a position to attract and retain high quality staff. So that is an important measure. Moving on from administrative, looking at instructional costs. So instructional costs, again, we want to be higher on this graphic. And so in terms of the instructional cost per student, we are quite a bit higher on this one. So that's an important measure to show that we are spending more of our dollars in the classroom, which is where we want to spend those. And so, again, proud of that measure. And in terms of our teaching staff, so again, we want to make sure that we're providing a compensation package that's at or near the top of our peers, and so that we are offering something where is a package that is attractive to teachers, so that we are attracting and retaining high quality staff. And so there are districts out there that may be much lower than this, and so their staff might be cherry picked, and so they might be losing staff, have a lot of turnover, but fortunately for our district, that's not something that we deal with on a regular basis. And so we are very grateful for the support of our board and our community to make sure that we are paying our teachers well. And so that is something that we are proud of for that part of our investment. Another measure is in terms of safety and security. So back when the levy passed in 2020, one of the things that we talked about was ramping up our safety and security investment. And so you can see prior to the levy passing in 2020, you can see our average cost per year in terms of our safety and security spend. And that did increase quite a bit after the passage of the levy. So again, just making sure that we're keeping our commitments and investing in areas that are high value to our community. The next category we want to look at is mental wellness. So again, mental wellness was a key focus back when we passed that levy in 2020. And so we did want to make sure that we're keeping our commitment to continue investing in this area for our staff and for our families. And so you can see over on the right side the number kind of a snapshot of some of the resources we have in terms of personnel, whether it's guidance counselors or specific staff who are on our intervention and wellness teams, or whether it's school-based therapy teams or school psychs. And so we're grateful to have that kind of investment in the mental wellness category. And in addition to the staff we also have therapy dogs in each building. In addition to that, we also have partnerships with various groups such as Hope Squad and Mind Peace, and they are also valuable partners to help us make sure that we are investing well in the mental wellness area for our students. Another thing that we wanted to look at was this area of extracurricular. So I mentioned early on the niche rankings, one of the things they do look at is extracurricular offerings. And so, again, we talk about our Project 100, and Project 100 is a long-term goal to make sure we have as many students as possible, hopefully 100% of our students involved in some kind of activity beyond the classroom. And so we are fortunate to be able to invest in a lot of different kinds of extracurricular activities. And so we do have over 200 groups throughout our district that are available to our students. So whether that's academic or athletics or musical or other kind of student activities, we have a lot of groups that are available to our kids. And we do spend quite a bit of dollars investing in those to make sure that those offerings are available. So again, you can see here over $5 million a year that we spend in that area. On the right side, we mentioned some of the league championships or state championships or national championships. And while we know that we don't say, well, the season is a success or not a success, depending on whether or not you've won a state championship or a national championship. Maybe the tennis team is the one, maybe they're measuring their success that way. But for most groups, we're not saying if you didn't win a state championship, it's not a successful year. What we want to do is provide opportunities for kids. And so, again, with having this many types of groups out there, we're grateful for the support of our community to be able to invest in this area. The next piece to look at is our tax millage rates. And so, again, this is a measure that obviously we want to be on the lower end at. And so we're grateful, again, to be on the lower end of the spectrum, looking at these districts, these highly ranked districts in Southwest Ohio. So much lower than, definitely in the lower half, and much lower than some of these other districts out there. So a lower tax millage rate obviously is lower taxes, which is everybody is in favor of. And so, again, this is a measure that we're also proud of. The next piece to look at is our facility investment. And so what we have up here on the board is includes some of our investments over at the Early Childhood Center, MECC, also investments at ME&MI, and then also here at the high school. All of the projects that have gone on there, whether it's renovations or even some additions over at MI and some additions at MECC, all of these projects have been funded without debt, without going back to the community asking for any kind of bond issue. And so just long-term financial planning and a lot of work that goes into that to make sure that we are strategically thinking about how we're investing dollars that the community entrusts to us. And so fortunately, we've been able to do all of these projects without debt. And then even beyond these, if you think back to even a couple years prior, again, just as a reminder, the entire project over at the middle school, that whole middle school renovation was all paid for, again, without a bond issue from the community. So happy to report that in terms of our investment for facilities. Now, looking a little bit more on the nuts and bolts of the forecast. Forecast is on our board agenda for tonight, so we did want to take an additional minute and look at some of the key factors here. So just in terms of revenue, what are our primary revenue sources? So our primary revenue sources are our local property taxes from our community, and then our foundation funding from the state. And so over 60% of our general fund dollars come from our local community, most of those in terms of residential or housing units, and a little bit in terms of commercial, but most of our funding is coming from our community. So again, we can't say this enough that we are very grateful for the support of our community, even going back to the 2020 levy and other ways that they support us. The community support is vital to providing the foundation we have for the programs we're able to offer our students and families. So looking at the property type, so again, almost 80% of our value in our community comes from homes, about 20% from commercial. We do partner on a regular basis with the city and the township to try to increase that commercial number. So to be able to attract and retain other companies into the area to help support the tax burden and take some of that off of our homeowners. But again, most of that is coming from our residential community. Moving over to the expenditure side, so we are a people business. We don't have inventory or widgets or those kinds of things. Our investment really is in people, and they're providing a service and educating our students. And so most of that expense is really coming in terms of personnel. And so you can see the salary number up there, our benefits. Most of that benefits cost probably in the health insurance category, around 15%. The other 9% roughly is in terms of retirement and those kinds of things. So those things combined to make up just shy of 85% of our total operating spend in the area of personnel. Some of the other categories we have in addition to personnel are our purchase services, so that would be utilities, other educational contracted services that we're purchasing. We do have some contracted service for our custodial work, and so that's included in there as well. Supplies and materials is the next category, so instructional supplies for the classroom, bus fuel, maintenance supplies, building cleaning supplies, those kinds of things. One of the areas that you don't see, if you look at the actual details of the forecast, you don't see a lot of as capital, and the reason you don't see a lot of that, we call that permanent improvement, is that we do have a separate fund. And again, a lot of those resources come from the economic development projects we have with the township and the city. And so those projects help us fund our capital needs. And then just our last category, these other items, property tax collection fees and audit fees, bank fees, those kinds of things. So in terms of overall outlook for the future, since the passage of the 2020 levy, did give us a shot in the arm in terms of our revenues and our operating revenues. And so that bumped up. So in these last couple years and this year, we're projecting also to have revenues exceeding expenses. And but as we look into the future in these next few years, we're continuing to project our expenses to kind of steadily grow over time. House Bill 920 is something that kind of, for us, kind of offsets that increase in local property tax revenues. We won't go into a lot of detail on that tonight, but that is something that kind of keeps that number down for our district. And so we're not projecting our revenues to grow quite at the same rate as our expenses. And so over the next few years, we are projecting that will shift there, and that our expenses will exceed our revenues, and we'll kind of start eating into our cash reserves here even as soon as next year. But this does show that you can kind of see the yellow line there showing that over the next few years we'll kind of be eating into those cash reserve balances. We mentioned the niche rankings a few times tonight. Back in 2020, we were a district that was ranked number 5 in Ohio in terms of niche and 68 nationally. We are holding steady here. We've actually moved up one spot in the state to number 4. We're very close to the same spot in terms of the nation, number 70. So that does put us at 616 districts. That puts us in the top 1% of schools in Ohio in terms of the niche rankings. So I did mention that puts us in the top 1%. So that's something that we, again, are proud of to be able to provide for our community, always striving to provide that high quality educational experience, whether it's low administrative costs or investing in the classroom or providing extracurricular opportunities or debt-free facilities. Like, all these investments are something that we really work hard and strategically think about as we're moving along and looking forward. And able to provide those things at a cost that's below the state average is something that we, again, really work hard at. The board knows this. You guys work on this on a regular basis, and so we're grateful to have the support of the board, and not just the support, but also all the planning and the thought and the thinking that goes into that. So the average person watching out there tonight may not necessarily know this, but even this forecast itself is a long process to go through to get to this point. It's not just we throw some things on paper and go and approve it. This is a process that starts early October, where we have a finance committee and we go through the gruesome details of the forecast, and then we have a full board work session where we spend another hour going through the full details of the forecast, and there's back and forth sometimes of questions of, did you think about this and what about that, and just always always providing valuable feedback that helps us come up with our final forecast that we present to the state. And the last thing, the journey to 2030 is something that we do talk about on a regular basis, but that's mostly in terms of classroom and offerings and things of that nature for our families, but that also applies to our financial picture. And so certainly our goal is to stretch that 2020 levy as long as possible. We would love to get that thing as close to 2030 as we can. Again, and providing a great return on investment for our community. And getting us close to 2030 will be certainly a goal of ours. So, any questions on anything in this presentation or anything else forecast-wise?
Board questions?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you for all the time and effort put into this forecast and just laying it out so simply. There's no smoke and mirrors when it comes to Sean. It's very straightforward and well presented. So thank you for that.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Sean, I think
Thank you.
what I like most about that presentation for the public tuning in is that you point out two really important features of school funding in Ohio, and that is that we expect our money when we pass a levy or we get an influx of revenue. We expect that money to not be spent all that year, and we expect to have that opposite graph situation at the end of that 5 to 10 years, whatever we're looking at. We know that the revenue stream in Ohio is not steady every year, and our expenses are not going to match that. And I think some people look at those numbers on occasion when they don't understand that, and they think that, wow, they're outspending their money, and it's really not the case. You and our past treasurer, a lot of other people working together have done a great job, I think, at financing all of the things that this district has had to finance. The other situation is that capital money, capital expenditures, it can't come out of the same fund as salaries. They have to be different buckets, and I think some people don't realize when they see capital monies, capital funding in our on our books, they don't realize that we can't spend that on school supplies, for example, maintenance for our copiers, things like that. So I appreciate those points being made to our community. Periodically, I think it's really important that we highlight those aspects of school funding in Ohio.
Yep.
Thank you
I
for
appreciate you
that.
bringing that up in terms of capital. Actually, later in the agenda tonight, we actually have a extension of a TIF agreement, economic development incentive agreement with the city to provide additional dollars for the district. And so those are dollars that will go directly towards that capital fund to help us fund those roof repairs and parking lot repairs and repavements and things of that nature.
Yep, good point, good add.
So I think
Those are very important, by the way.
yes. We're not getting robots or any automated HVACs with any of that. No, I think it's important. School finance is, simply complicated. I say simply because once you kind of grasp what the trick is, you can kind of see how it moves. That's important because that's going to be the next topic of conversation in our state for the next few months. It's always a conversation at the biennial budget. What Sean just presented for those that are watching is a fairly healthy school district that has a healthy finance and governance of that piece. So as you hear these things about, millage floors and homesteads, and these will start to bubble up in the news, know that your school district is not only watching them, but clearly is well positioned to withstand any slings and arrows or deficits or increases that the state may do with their funding. We're in a good position, and so definitely want to thank Sean and my colleagues for their oversight and governance and making sure that this district can withstand what may come from Columbus, because we never know. We are, as Kevin likes to say, the only government entity that can't just take your dollars. We have to ask for them. And so, you know, Columbus may do what it wants, but it's very nice to have a community that supports overwhelmingly their school district, funds us, and then we try to manage it to the best of our ability. And so, you know, you're going to hear more about school finance, but just trust and know that we are in a healthy position as of today. So just wanted to point that out. So thanks, Sean. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
On another part of your presentation, when you talked about the ratio of property taxes or of revenue that's supported by residential property taxes and business, it's about 80% residential and 20. One of the interesting things about where we live is that the city of Mason that's almost a direct opposite. So a majority of their revenues, about 80%, come from business, 20% from residents. One of the foundational impacts that allows us to be successful and allows the city to be successful is the way that we work together. Because some cities could just lower the burden on the residents. Then now all of a sudden the residents are carrying such a heavy load that choices have to be made, and sometimes the schools pay the price for that in terms of the quality and the ability to attract, you know, top teachers and staff. So the reason I bring that up is because we just had an election, and one of the things that was really important locally was that our next city leadership and our next school leadership continues to work well together to handle economic opportunities, for the city to maintain their cost structure and how they manage revenues, and the same for us. And so I just like to, you know, point that out. It's really important that, you know, Desiree said it's not smoke and mirrors. It really isn't. It's a well thought out set of structures that extend past just our control. And so we have to work collaboratively with the city and the township and the state to make sure that we can maintain this kind of forecast going forward. So I just like to recognize that, because we do rely on other government entities supporting us and similarly supporting them. So, and Sean, thanks for this. One of the things I like is that we constantly forecast. All the big decisions we make always have a forecast component to them. It's not just something that Sean forces us through twice a year, and that's really paid off. In fact, we actually forecast 10 years out, even though the state only asks us to look 5 years out, because it's really important what the next generation is going to be looking at. We want to make sure that we set them up well for success going forward, whoever they may be. So, but thank you, Sean.
Sure.
Sean, can you go back a couple slides to the debt-free slide? There was in there. I feel like every time I see this, it doesn't get enough, you know, emphasis, and that's not, you know, shortcoming on your part. It's just so hard to overstate, you know, the magnitude of being able to have that sort of an accomplishment on the horizon for a district. And in particular, you know, Kevin and Connie in this room, you know, I think have been here as long as just about anybody, and shepherded, you know, this district through, you know, numerous financial decisions that have put us in a position to be able to, you know, be within sight of having debt-free facility renovations, being able to see, you know, the end of a mortgage payment. You know, it's like you only hear about this stuff on Dave Ramsey infomercials sometimes. You know, people living debt-free and not having a mortgage to pay off. And I think especially, you know, for a community and in an economic climate where, you know, right now the housing market is a little bit tough to jump into with, you know, mortgage rates and interest rates being what they are. It is a small part for a school district to be able to pass on to the next generation a well-governed and a well sort of stewarded district in terms of the big costs and big investments from a capital standpoint. So I always like to circle back to that because I don't hear a whole lot of other districts, talking about this sort of thing. It just is a completely foreign, concept, and it's a mindset that a lot of people just can't even wrap their heads around with where most districts find themselves. So thank you. I'll echo the thanks and the appreciation for your making complex topics simple for us to follow along and to digest. And I know our community is better off for it as well. So thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. I think the last slide, Tracy maybe has my contact information on it for anybody out there in the community that would like to ask questions or talk more. Always happy to talk on the phone, email back and forth, sit down and have conversations about the forecast. So always open to those things as well, and invite those conversations. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Good job, Sean.
All right. The next item on our agenda is our hearing of the public. Tracy, do we have any tonight?
Nothing tonight.
All right. Then moving on, the next item on our agenda is our superintendent's recommendations, personnel items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
I'll just quickly highlight a few things on the agenda today. Section H, I always want to highlight, thank you to those that have signed up to be substitute teachers. Last board meeting, we raised our substitute teacher pay, and we have had an increase of substitute teachers continuing to sign up. So thank you, continue to sign up. It's a great place to work and serve. That's section H in your, on your agenda there with the personnel. Section L, I want to just congratulate Karen Long. Karen Long is retiring. Karen Long has been a longtime counselor and serving our kids well. And one of the things that we have talked about even tonight, our investment in the whole child and wellness, and our counselors have done that really well. And so Karen, just want to congratulate you on your next chapter of life coming up. And thank you for your service. We have Section W and Section AD are the other two sections I would just point out to you. You've heard us mention the concept of Project 100. Project 100 ties back to our OKRs, our objectives and key results. Those are on our website if that's new language to someone listening in. But this section in W and AD just highlights the coaches, the opportunities, the folks that sign up to support our kids, the volunteers. That section is all the volunteers that come through. And the reason we have them on this personnel sheet is because they all fall under our insurance policy as well. So we approve them tonight so that they can continue to be advisors for our kids. And we have so many clubs and so many opportunities for our kids, and that's because of the adults that sign up to do this. So I want to thank everybody that volunteers their time and those that sign up to coach as well.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Any other discussion? All right. Sean, please call the roll.
Mrs. Batchy? Yes. Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mr. Godwin?
Yes.
5-0.
Next item on the agenda, superintendent's recommendations, action items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
There are 3 action items here. The first one Sean mentioned in his 5-year forecast update is the extension of the TIF agreement. Kevin also mentioned this as just a reminder of the importance of our relationship with the city. The way that we have built TIF agreements with our township and our city has been to make our community whole at the end of those, and this is a 10-year extension. This is located over on Tylersville across from the tower. If you know that area that's being developed now, there is a new car wash over in that area, and so that's continuing to be looked at and developed, and the TIF is going to be extended there. Sean, anything else?
Yeah, I was going to say, before you go on, one thing I will mention, we are grateful for the support and partnership we have from both the city and the township. I know I did mention that, but specifically, one of the things I will mention is that in this TIF agreement, the Ohio law provides certain flexibility for cities or townships to enact an economic development incentive without school district approval. And so, but one of the things I will say about the city and the township is that, and especially the city, they work very hard to make sure the school district is being held harmless. And so this is another example of a case where the school district is not losing any dollars. The school is completely held harmless in this. Just this week I was talking to a district up north and they were lamenting the fact that the cities and townships in their area were moving forward with agreements that weren't favorable to the district, and so they were having development and things going on that was going to be potentially financially harmful for the district. And so just kind of made me, again, think about how grateful I am for the city that they work so hard to make sure that the school district is fully held harmless in these, and this is another example of that.
Thanks, Sean. The next item on there, item B, is Warren County ESC service agreement. There are 3 different agreements there that we have been working to finalize. And so those are agreements that support student services throughout the year. So a lot of times we'll have students that have additional services that are needed in our district, or we have programming that's needed within our buildings, and we use Warren County ESC as that provider. And so these are the contracts that reflect that service. The final item there is item C. That's our book disposal list. We have books that are being disposed regularly. Most of the time the books are either being taken out of circulation because they are not being used or checked out very often by kids after a few years if they sit there, or they're just being, they're in a bad,
They're well used.
so well used. Like I was in the library the other day shooting a video, and it looked like someone had eaten half of the book. So sometimes the books are ready to, a new one needs to be rotated in, and so we take them out of circulation. Some of those are also curriculum materials. Our curriculum is constantly being updated through Amy's department as well and looked at, and so when we bring new materials in, we'll also move materials out that are maybe not as relevant, or we've moved on to new materials that are more aligned with our instructional needs. So that's what we have there on section, or on item C.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Sean. Any other discussion? Sean, please call roll.
Ms. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mr. Galpin?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes, and I will abstain on B.
4-0.
All right, next item on our agenda is treasurer's report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So a couple of things that we have on here on the agenda. Again, the forecast, the notes and assumptions are one of the main pieces of this one. That what's on the agenda is actually the forecast template, the document that has all the details of the forecast in it, as well as some additional notes and assumptions that help provide additional information and insights into the forecast. So I always invite people to look at those if they would like. That will be submitted to the Department of Education and Workforce. The other items we have on here, we have a fund change and then some donations from community members and businesses out there. One of the things I will highlight on the fund change, we had a fund that we called our Kiwanis Student Assistance Fund, and we're changing that to our Project 100 Fund. Just a quick shout out to the Kiwanis Club. They are donating $5,000 to help fund this Project 100 idea, where we've got, maybe there are kids who are able to participate in some kind of extracurricular activity, but they maybe need some funding, and so Kiwanis is stepping up to provide these dollars, and also hopefully it won't be the end. Hopefully there'll be additional resources donated into this fund, and so again, just always grateful for the support of our community partners like Kiwanis.
Thank you, Sean. Any other discussion? All right, Sean, please call the roll.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Ms. Batchy?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
All right, our next item is the committee reports, and looks like we've had a Student Achievement Committee meeting.
Yeah, Student Achievement Committee met on November 9th, and it was really a meeting focused on proposals for new courses at Mason High School that would be offered in the 2024-2025 school year. We heard proposals for 4 new social studies elective courses, and this is sort of a natural next step as part of our social studies instructional resource review that happened last year, and we sort of set a new vision. It's a good chance to look at what are the elective offerings and making sure that they're relevant to students. Those 4 courses were all electives, perspectives on sports and American culture, Queen City Studies, a course that is in the works tentatively titled The Science of Well-Being for Teens, and Leadership, Public Policy, and You. and then another course, an elective in the science department called Metal Madness, and all about a material science class with a lot of career applications. So the committee had great feedback on that, and so we're kind of taking that and doing some updates and revisions to those proposals with the intention of adding them to our to the December board meeting for a first reading, and then January would be a second reading and a vote. We also had the opportunity to visit some of the courses and opportunities that the committee gave feedback on last year. So a science elective course called The Science Behind Our Food, and our Project Lead the Way engineering course, as well as our experiential learning, sort of as you heard from them recently here, that sort of reinvigorated program with a student leadership model.
Thank you, Amy. All right. No other committee reports, so the next item on our agenda is the legislative update.
Yeah, legislative update, just really a couple of quick items. Since there has been so much activity with the election season, there's not been lots of activity in Columbus. However, we do have the new announced head of the Department of Education and Workforce, which would be Steve Dakin. That still has to go through the Senate Education Committee for confirmation, but Steve Dackett was a former superintendent back in the day, also served with the state school board at one point in time, and so you may have heard his name come up once before with the state superintendent position. And so Steve he has been named that position to oversee that program. So we'll learn more about that as that goes forward. The other thing that we are watching closely, I know Ian alluded to this as well, and I know Sean has mentioned this too, but there's House Bill 187 and Senate Bill 153 or two that we're watching closely because they're trying to adjust for some of the changes that have happened in the House property taxes and some of the things that are happening in communities all around when those are being reevaluated. So we'll watch that. There's some conversation around the homestead exemption, changing some of that. There's some conversation that has been out there about the 20 mil floor, and then we heard yesterday, I think it was from, Representative Byrd mentioned that that's not going to be an option. They're not going to touch the 20 mil floor. So it'll be interesting to see that come together, especially during this season. A lot of things will happen really quickly in the next month, and so we'll continue to be closely connected to Columbus during that time so that we can weigh in where we need to. Sean's watching it closely as well, so I'll keep you updated in our December meeting at what we're learning along the way.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Administrator commentary. Tracy.
Well, we are in that season of gratitude, and I am so grateful for all of the Mason quality opportunities that you showcased. One that deserves recognition, and it's that consistently great piece that we talked about too, our incredible marching band that earned the 6th place finish at VOA Grand Nationals. I think this is the 11th year in a row that they have been in that top 10 in the nation for that. But probably even more, I think even a better reflection of who we are was that for the very first time in program history, they were awarded the Esprit de Corps Award, which was really about, in some ways, it's almost the definition of what we would say is comic culture. And I understand some of the behind the scenes things that happen to make that come into place. It is all the things that we would want, where it isn't about just getting the trophy or the win or ranking. It's really about our relationships. And thinking of that, I'm so grateful for our veterans and that our schools do such a beautiful job of recognizing. Our MI Veterans Day program was terrific as always. Our new choir director who is there now, Laura Jackson, it was phenomenal. I mean, what these students, their performance level was next level. And then of course you have the Vetemeyers who have been always just next level on how they put together a performance. So many thanks to them. And then our Mason Kiwanis Club on Veterans Day had a really successful pancake day. I think Janet and we think this is our 18th year chairing Pancake Day together, and every year we sort of, are just it's just amazing to watch the people come in. But a special thanks to the City of Mason, who put together a beautiful Veterans Day ceremony for our whole community, but also paid for every veteran who came to Pancake Day. We were able to treat them to breakfast. So I wanted to just personally thank the City of Mason for that. And then when I think about consistency and where we are today, there has been one thing that after we sold Western Row and after the pandemic, that had gone away. And I am thrilled to let you know that the Senior Citizen Breakfast that is going to be at Mason Elementary is coming back. And I think that was a beloved tradition, and it was so important when we think about just the generational benefit of having our kids get to serve members of our community who have also served and been here, and there's just such an importance of that event. I'm really thrilled. It's coming back December 5th. If you've got some senior citizens in your life who you would like to make sure that we invite, we're going to invite all of our Golden Comet Card members and some of our friends at Mason Christian Village and Cedar Village and some of the places in town that normally, but I wanted to make sure that our board members knew if you've got some people that should be on that list, we can't wait to bring that tradition back. And Mason Elementary is really excited to do that again.
Can you say that date again, Tracy?
December 5th.
Thank you, Tracy.
Well, continuing the gratitude theme, I'm just reflecting on how Sean shared so many of the things that we have to celebrate. And while we do, one of the things that I have such gratitude for is just the continued hunger to continue learning and be better and grow and improve. And that starts with Dr. Cooper modeling the way with Read to Lead in our team meetings and in his weekly message to us. I think about, I was just recently, I guess it was last week, in two of our middle school English teachers classroom, Don Lanzarata and Jillian Denman, and they just continue every year to say, what can I do differently this year? And this year it was a research symposium for their 7th graders. They dug into topics that were interesting to them and put all of their research skills to work, but in a way that was really personally relevant. And not just that, then they invited in family members to come and to learn about those research topics, and from not just their own child, but other children in the course. And so I learned a little bit about space junk, the history of the Amber Alert. It was just such interesting topics that piqued the interest. I missed one that I really wanted to see around how to recover farmland after a natural disaster. I just thought, how fascinating, and that one of our students, they created this opportunity for them to explore that. And they do amazing things, but every year say, well, now what? How can we stretch this farther? And I think we see that in all of the new course proposals that were also shared at Student Achievement Committee. One of those from our teacher here, Maria Miller, really thinking about, what's the new thing that I can do that can really tap into students' interests? And it's not easy to develop a course. It really takes a lot of hard work, time, and thought. And so just grateful to be in a learning community where that's our norm.
Thanks, Amy.
I would just like to say thanks to the Transportation Department, because they committed this year to improving and recommitting to comic culture. And so they have agreed to a series once a month on just looking at our comic culture and finding ways to talk about what it means to respect one another, how to have empathy for one another. And so that seems like a simple thing, but we often forget what that means and what kind of commitment it means for us personally, as well as professionally. So I am grateful for them for that. And then, as always, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, I am grateful for new subs showing up on our board agenda every month. So again, thankful for that.
Thank you, Tanya.
I'm going to thank the After 2:30 crew, so advisors, coaches, volunteers, both adult and student, the leaders that wrap themselves around all of the things that kids get to participate in after school ends, because it is part of the critical connection, as we saw in the wayfinding video. That kind of becomes their group that they become connected with for years as they pass, matriculate through the system. So they were doing Project 100 well before Project 100 was a thing. So now that we have even a more committed effort, I'm looking forward to seeing that grow. And I'm really just thankful that our district actually is putting some resources and thought behind how to get some of the students connected that aren't necessarily connected, and continue to increase a sense of belonging.
Thanks, Christine.
You know, I'd like to recognize a couple folks for gratitude. One, definitely want to congratulate the tennis team. But you know, when you have a team that's won 7 straight times, I'm a parent of a 17-year-old son who plays a lot of sports. And for me, looking at Coach Reed, just the culture he's built. If you noticed, a lot of coaches would have stood there all evening and talked about their kids and everything they'd done, and in essence taken some of that like they had done it all. He had a seat over here and had his kids come up, and he showed the true reason, in my opinion, those kids are winning, because they built that culture that they're responsible and respectable for one another. And that's just, it's so hard to find that. And as a parent, you just cringe of, oh, there's a new coach. And you're just hoping it's going to be that person that looks out for your child, emotional, physically, helps them to grow, and that you can trust and is going to be fair. And just for our district to have someone at his level of a coach, we're really lucky. You don't win 7 championships without great coaching. They're excellent kids, but also an excellent coach. Also, I'd like to thank Sean. You know, I've worked with a lot of treasurers, and when he went over the PI budget this year, and we've been working together on that for 5-6 years. And there's often times when we get into that, a couple things I like about Sean is, number one, he'll say yes or no. There's not, if I'm saying, I'm not sure on this, or why don't you go out and look at it with me? There's lots of times he'll go with me and look at parking lots. We'll go look at roofs, because pictures just don't do it. So I've worked with a lot of treasurers that would have never done that. And it's for us to be able to go out and for him to understand, so help me to understand why, again, we need to spend $300,000 on pavement. Well, look, you can see, and a lot of times our architect is even out to explain, you know, why does the track need recoded, so that you can see the different layers and how it actually, the product will tell you if it's failing. It's not just a guess. It will clearly tell you that it's failing. And for him to take the time to understand that, I respect it, makes my job a lot easier, and it's really paid off, because we've been able to fix a lot of things now that we look around the district after half of a decade, and a lot of that's just good leadership on his part and taking the time to be part of our team. So I just wanted to thank him for that.
Thanks, Todd.
To congratulate our fall teams, a lot of successful seasons. Obviously, tennis team, cross country team, both boys and girls were at high up in the state finishes. Football team, nice playoff run there. But in addition to those things, I maybe kind of piggyback on what Christine had said, but with over 200 different clubs and teams and groups and things, that those things don't happen without a lot of work and time and effort from people. And so whether that's our teachers out there serving as advisors, or community members coming in and coaching, or the volunteers, we had a whole long list of volunteers on the agenda tonight. Just grateful for those people who really invest their time. None of those people are getting rich off of these positions. They're really out there doing it for the kids and investing in the next generation. And so just very grateful for them.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, echoing gratitude, I was able to see the band perform their 11th Grand National Championship, and they were just fabulous. They were great. We had tough competition from around the United States, 3 Texas teams in the top 5. I mean, it was amazing, and they did a great job. But what was the most amazing moment was how excited they got when they won the award that Tracy's talking about, when they won the award around the culture and spirit that they brought to the competition. That was the first award given that night. It was about 12 o'clock at night. Everyone cheered for them. It was a moment that you could see our crew just excited. What happened behind the scenes, there was a band that showed up. They didn't have the right equipment that they needed, and they realized it right before going on to the field. And at that moment, our folks stepped up and said, they own the moment, and they said, use ours. And that's a risky thing to do because you're timed. And so they knew that could throw a little bit of a wrench in our performance, but they did it, and they did it well. And that group got to perform and participate. They changed it around quickly, and we got to participate. So it's just one of those things that everyone saw as an act of true kindness and generosity, and we appreciate that about the spirit of our band. Football team, great job. Cross-country teams, 2nd and 3rd in the state, not bad. That's awesome. we had to talk with our kids just because they were a little bit bummed when they came in second. I get that because they're competitive, but we're like, you're in second in the state of Ohio in the large school district, so great job. They were wonderful. They did a great job. And all the coaches that made that happen. You know, the thing that's as interesting is when you watch these kids, they're performing at such a high level, and you ask, a lot of times parents will move to our district to give kids that opportunity to play at that level. When you look at the top 4 districts on that chart that Sean showed earlier, if you add up the enrollment of the first 3, they would about fit inside our high school, a little bit past that. But it just puts, like, it takes a lot of great teachers and staff members and great administrators and coaches to make that happen for that many to be at that level. So we're so grateful. I do want to, I've been studying gratitude a lot with my team, and we've been talking a lot about it. And one of the things I heard recently in my studies was, you know, you hear that saying, any given day or any given moment. We talk about Mason moments, and just that idea of given. And if you just dig into that for a second and sit in it, it is a gift that we get, and we shouldn't take that for granted. So just taking moments to, we talk about the band performing at number 6, but our band was able to make it safely back. You know, and those are just given moments that just go by so quickly every day, and I don't think we take it for granted on purpose. It's just what it is. Our hearts go out and our prayers go out to the Tusky Valley School District. They had their band was in a bus today coming to OSBA to perform, and was in just a tragic accident and lost members of their families. And so just extend our prayers and our thoughts to them, but just reminding us in this moment of a month of gratitude, that those given moments, just to pause and recognize those and be grateful for the moments we do have with each other. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, board commentary. Ian?
You know, I'm still thinking about our girls tennis team that just won their 7th in a row, and how hard that is. And I took a little time to do the math. So they had 4 freshmen, 4 sophomores, 2 juniors, and 2 seniors. So to have a result where more than half, a quarter of your team wasn't even in high school, to participate on those teams, you know, is such a special thing to think about when we think about culture and how that's, you know, it's transmitted to one another in spaces. To continue that level of achievement means that there's something that's happening in that space that's allowing people to come in and be supported in a way that they can feel successful. So kudos to Coach Reed and the parents and the players. We have another team that achieves at a similar level. We usually see them in the spring. That's our ultimate Frisbee team. They just won the inaugural mixed ultimate Frisbee state championship.
Yes.
So I don't know that everybody knew that. And he also won that with 8th graders that played a significant role. Coach Wettengo, I don't know what is in the soup that he makes in the culture for that team, but he's able to add kids that aren't even in high school and go win state championships. So kudos to the mixed inaugural state champions, our mixed ultimate Frisbee team. So much so that my son is now a member of the ultimate Frisbee team, and the first thing he said to me was, "Dad, the camaraderie and the sportsmanship is just off the charts." So really good things going on in those spaces, and the levels of achievement that we've had athletically couldn't be done without the community and the coaches and the families supporting them. I was just thinking about, we had a few things in the district. The Bold Moves was able to attend that, and I think, you know, when I think of that and the journey to 2030, it's really important that we are aligned. And so it's going to take effort and attention, not just from this board or this administrative team, but our staff and the community to be able to come together to really get us to 2030 successfully, which was a wonderful opportunity at Student Achievement to see the courses that we approved come to life, and then watch the impact. I mean, I think, you know, we don't come up with these courses, the 5 of us. There are proposals that are brought to us from staff members on the basis of talking to the students about what's important to them, and to actually see that come to life in the classroom, and kids just diving into cooking. And it smelled fantastic. They were making dairy-free tiramisu, and they were going to serve it to their classmates. And they were creating a recipe book to share with each other culturally. I mean, it's so the things that we all do and spend time doing, it really, at the end of the day, has a very big outsized impact on our students and staff members. And so, again, want to express gratitude for that. Thank you to the Kiwanis for starting the Project 100 Fund. Aaron and I put a dent in some biscuits and gravy and some pancakes, and so that's always a good time. He goes for the biscuits and gravy, I go for the pancakes. But it's always a great place to bring community together and for a great cause. So thank you guys. The Veterans Day ceremony was just outstanding. I got to stand next to one of my fellow board members and kind of meet her son and just kind of talk. And we had how many different flyovers?
Some not planned.
Some not planned in the middle of people's speeches, but great to take a moment to honor the veterans in this community that have served so honorably. And so just want to express gratitude for that. Actually, my second favorite veteran was able to make it home for his birthday. So my nephew was able to come home from Hawaii serving in the Navy there. So I actually got to spend a little bit of his birthday with him yesterday. So that was good. I hadn't seen him in about a year. So really appreciative of that. And just want to say thank you to everyone who ran. We did have an election. So those are always inflection points. And all of us have had to navigate that campaign. And so we know what that feels like. So thank you to each and every person who stepped up to say that they would love to serve their community. Congratulations are in order for those who have been declared and those that are still waiting to hear what the word is. But something happened in this election that hasn't happened in over 2 decades, and that's that Kevin Wise wasn't on the ballot. And we'll have time to appreciate you fully, sir, but these 2 years that I've got to sit in this space with you, I'm deeply grateful for. I know my wife is deeply grateful to get to know your wife, Marcia, as they serve on the Foundations Board together, but thank you for all that you've done for this community, for this school district, for the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ian. Kevin?
Appreciate that. It was a very low-pressure election. Not for others, but I also echo thanks to everybody who's willing to put their name out and you know, take the leadership necessary to help lead this district. So looking forward to seeing the board change and continue to grow. I also, Tracy's very humble, but for the fact that Jace, Tracy, and Janet Nelson run the Kiwanis Pancake, I say they run it. Everybody does what they say, which is the definition of running it, but they're inviters. They invite lots of volunteers that help, that enjoy that event. It's just a staple of our community. It's an important funding mechanism for lots that we do around here. So for all the volunteers that make that happen, thanks. But Tracy, that's something. 18 years. I would have lost. I would have failed that quiz. So, but now that I think about it, I can't even remember before. So, also like to thank all those that put on our Veterans Day events all around town. Mm-hmm. Just an incredible opportunity to thank our veterans. I'd also like to depart from the normal, and maybe this is this Esprit de Corps Award candidate, and extend congratulations to our neighbors at Kings High School,
Yes.
whose girls volleyball won state championship. I think somebody told me it was the first time and I guess we can say this, a public school won a state championship in volleyball. And so Mr. Sears, who we still take a lot of pride in, and his team of administrators and coaches and their parents, I'm sure that's an exciting time. So congratulations to them. I'd also, Ian pointed out what's going on with some of the legislative happenings around what will ultimately be real estate taxes. He pointed out that we are the only place that those who are elected to Congress and state posts recognize the only place people will actually vote for their own taxes are schools and fire and police. That's pretty much it. Maybe mental health boards. So what ends up happening is they push all those choices down. They don't push the choices down, just the choices. They push the burden down. So what's going on right now with this legislation is critical, because 47 years ago, we've talked about probably twice a month for 47 years, so somebody do the math. House Bill 920 was from the last time our country faced this kind of intense inflation. It causes house prices to go up, and then everyone freaks out and says, well, we can't tax people that much, so we're gonna change the rules. And I totally agree that the rules should be changed when inflation has such a dire impact on home prices, which are the vehicle in which we've chosen to levy taxes. However, it's a wonderful opportunity to shuffle the deck. And just like we're the recipient of the obligation to tax our residents, we're also the one player at the poker table that wonders who the patsy is. And when you learn a long time, if you don't know who it is, it's you. And the good news is we all know who it is. But what's going on right now could be a new House bill that's talked about for the next 50 years. And so our voices need to be resolute to put the burden back on our legislators in Columbus, especially our Republican legislators, to recognize that certain changes are tax increases. We know that the other side of the aisle, that isn't a hurtful statement, but our Republicans seem to react when we point out that what you're doing is a tax increase, and you've got to recognize that. It's not just changing the rules, it's a physical tax increase, because these are not neutral decisions that are being made. And so I just encourage you to keep your voices resolute, but not to be the vitriol, not to ride in yellow buses up to Columbus, not to play into their tactics, but to be resolute and serve as an example of how one district can be run in a fiscally responsible way that builds cushion around all the silliness that will happen. And I also recognize that the driver of all this started about 2 years ago when we sat in this same room and looked at these ESSER dollars that were coming at us. And they were so substantial that the inflation tidal wave behind it is what we're all dealing with now. And lo and behold, the same people that caused the inflation are now going to change the rules. And we just have to be a little bit smarter than them and force them to make sure that they recognize that those rules need to be changed in a way that's productive for our communities. And we also have to educate our community, continue to educate them, so that they recognize that elections matter, and that we can't lose sight on the fact that we have to have, we talk about our foundation being our fiscal stewardship. To do all the other rocks, we have to have that one sound. Well, that's not happening in other parts of our country. And so we need to educate our residents to have a louder voice in making sure that choices that are made that will affect it, that could be another 50-year impact on us. We don't say House Bill 920 again, it'll be House Bill whatever they end up with here. Treasurer's down the road will be echoing those comments. We just got to be careful that right now in this inflection point, we make sure our voices are heard and the right decisions are made. So that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. Connie?
We are going to miss those from our finance guy, those, the analytics, but I do think we are all appreciative of your perspective, and we will miss it, but I was going to do all of this in December until you jumped the gun.
I just wanted to thank him.
Yep. And it may take at least 2 months to thank him for the amount of time and effort that he's put in here. We do appreciate that. In line with what you're talking about elections, I do appreciate the people that ran in the most recent board election. I had one time, I think you had one time where the ballot, we were unopposed. And that's not a healthy environment, so I appreciate everyone that ran. I congratulate Danny, appreciate her effort. Desiree, you as well. And we'll welcome back Matt, who's a former member that I'm convinced that guy does bleed green and white. So it was a good outcome. And like I said, I think it's important that we get involved in our communities and we all play a role and kind of do our part to make this a great place. That gets me to the comment culture piece from Tracy tonight. It's really all over the place. It really is a mindset here, and I'm very appreciative of it. In the case of the tennis team, those are not just a group of talented tennis players. They may have accomplished some very high marks, but Coach Reed, Todd, I couldn't agree with you more. He has built a mindset with that team year after year. The leaders hand it down to the underclassmen, and it just clicks. And honestly, we have so much of that going on here. I am so grateful for the attitude that we have here. The band was another brilliant and beautiful demonstration of what we try to instill in our kids here. So I'm super grateful for that. And the last thing I'll mention is, Tracy, I don't know whose idea it was to bring back the senior breakfast, but that was a great memory for so many people that have come through Mason, and I'm glad to see it coming back. So thanks for that.
Thank you,
Teachers
Connie.
and the admin team are very excited about this. I know they're planning a great event.
Yep, I'll bet.
Desiree?
One thing I want to mention tonight is Tracy and Mr. Messer won awards at the Gyms of Excellence event. Was it last month? I guess. Gosh, I don't even know where I am.
It could have been
Was
last
it? I
week.
don't know. It could have been yesterday.
Yeah,
But yeah, they were recognized for their excellence in the community and very well deserved. So congratulations to you on that. Another thing I wanted to point out is, I don't know if you heard me after the tennis team was collecting themselves to leave the room, and I asked Coach Reed, I said, so tell me, what is your background in tennis? Like, you're a phenomenal coach. What's your experience? He goes, I'm just a player. And I said, a good player? He goes, not so much. I go, great coach? Yeah, maybe. You know, I mean, he's such a humble man. And definitely, like Todd said, just kind of step back and let that team do their thing, and just guides them gently. And that team spirit is just built, you can tell, from great leadership and great coaching. So that is just a great example of our comment culture. And just my heart and prayers to Tuscarawas Valley local schools.
Thank you, Desiree. Yeah, I'll lead with that. I was up in Columbus today at the OSBA conference when that news was announced, and they suspended the rest of the conference on account of that. Just, really hard to wrap your mind around. Those kids coming. The OSBA president-elect is a member of the Tusky Valley Board, and it just was the right thing to do in that moment. But thinking of those kids, thinking they were on their way to come and perform and to do, something that they loved, is just unfathomable. And we all in Mason, have Tusky Valley in our hearts and in our prayers tonight and going forward, as I know that many other school districts in the region will going forward. Sort of touching on the band theme, I know that our band, performed phenomenally, but just yet another sort of perspective and angle on the comic culture on display. I was talking to a parent new to the district and whose daughter is new to the band, and something that impressed her over the weekend was how Mr. Schlager from high school visited and accompanied the band and made it be known to all of the band members that he was going to be there that weekend, and that he knew it was a stressful time for them. He knew that there was a lot of pressure to perform well, and he just wanted to let them know that he was there to support them, and that if anybody needed any time to talk things through or what have you, that he was available to make some time for conversation with our band members. And that really made an impression. When we talk about small school feel, big school opportunities, that's a massive extracurricular program that we have, and just the knowledge that there's that extra support there at the pinnacle of their season, when anything could happen. You could forget the equipment, as we learned from one of their competing entities. They were very appreciative and very impressed that a school district of our size had the resources and the presence of mind to accompany those kids there. So I wanted to give him a shout out and again congratulate our band on their competition achievement, and wish them well as they get ready to go to Pasadena and get ready for the Tournament of Roses parade in January. I know that's a very exciting and momentous occasion for all involved there. So might be a little bit lighter on the Thanksgiving menu as families are kind of scraping together to afford and make that trip out there, but it will be well worth it, and the memories will last a lifetime, I'm sure. Tennis, a lot has been said about the tennis program. I really do mean it as a compliment, and hope that people will indulge the comparison. But getting to participate in a program, I had that opportunity at my high school on a swim team that won state championship after state championship, and being a kid who looked at neighboring teams and other schools and seeing kids that were touching the wall at slower times than I would have, but get to go to state and get to see that that level of competition. But you're in a team and you're in a program where you're not at the top of the roster, at the top of the depth chart. It's not lost on me the sacrifice that anybody makes when they come to Mason and they think in their mind, I want to go there to play tennis. You might be the best at your club as an eighth grader, but you come here and it takes a lot, and it shows a commitment to something greater than yourself and your own personal glory and achievement to be willing to let some freshmen, some sophomores sort of take the glory, and they have just shown up on the scene. And I think it really speaks to the culture that is built up here by Coach Reed and by all the players that came before him. I know it makes an impact when you have the bench gang that we heard about, and it's something that is just a true difference maker and a competitive advantage that is kind of the pinnacle again of comic culture, when you have a whole community behind you. I know we wanted to congratulate our neighbors over in Kings. They got a lot of tailwinds and support from their Red Sea following them at each stage of the playoff journey this season. And I wanted to clarify, not to diminish from that achievement or anything. It was the first public school to make a Southwest Regional Final in 29 years. I think the last time there was a public school from this region, it was the Lakota Thunderbirds before they split off, and that 1994 team actually won the state championship. So kudos to Kings for representing Warren County, representing Southwest Ohio, and our good friend Mr. Sears and all of his Kings Knights over there. That's a really tremendous honor. I'm kind of wondering if that interchange at Kings Mills. Yeah, if we're gonna see some new signage getting off the exit at Kings Mills, maybe, home of the 2024 or 2023 state champs. That'd be a fun little decoration on that side of the highway, though. Let's make sure it's over there. But congrats to them. Congrats to everybody who had a hand in celebrating Veterans Day. Whether it was on Friday, I know our Mason Intermediate School always puts on a phenomenal recognition there, carrying into Saturday with the pancake breakfast and the unveiling of the refurbished Veterans Memorial there on the municipal campus. That's really a cool, kind of feature and attraction, I think, in our community, that if you haven't taken the time to just go walk through there and see it, it's a really neat and really impressive memorial, and they've done a great job there. And then congratulations and kudos to everybody who ran and survived Election Day. Some of you are getting more than your money's worth with the drama and the stress that comes with close elections. But I think that goes to show just how much and how impactful our voices and our engagement in our community can be. Everybody who had a hand in supporting or doing something in some way for your candidate. We really take for granted sometimes that those efforts are meaningful, and some people wonder, oh, do I maybe I just won't go vote this year, or I got a lot to do, or whatever. But we saw locally and can see how impactful that is. So I know that carries a lot of stress with it. There's kind of it's a Rubicon you cross, and you can't really ever go back to kind of having that life of anonymity, and people, you feel very exposed and very vulnerable throughout that whole process. But honestly, once you go through that, there's no turning back now, and whether you like it or not, you're forever kind of a part of the local community. So win or lose, there's new strength and new confidence to accompany anybody who has gone through that process. So I know we have a little more time to let the dust settle and fully certify results and things like that, but I do commend all the candidates and look forward to them both at city council and our township trustees and the local school district on working together and progressing towards an aligned vision for our greater community. I think with that having been said, I will move for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Yes. Thank you, everybody.